education. Like I say, if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. We see the ignorance, out on the streets today. We see facilities that are inadequate to get our children to global standards. And we cannot continue to ignore that.
So would it be right or correct to say, well, let there not be any ASU, any kind of union, every university for yourselves, get the funds of the students, let them pay the fees that is, commensurate to the kind of learning they get?
Well, I'm not sure that ASU is...
Because they're the only union asking that, things should be done properly in such institutions. And if we go to some other universities, let's say the private institutions in Nigeria, I don't think these are members of the academic union of the universities. So perhaps they pay the kind of fees that you would want to see some Nigerians pay in some of these institutions. Ordinarily, some would prefer to go outside the country to get such kind of education. So if we can bring such, replicate them in our institutions here, and pay fees commensurate to such that you get outside the country, would that be okay?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think we need to eliminate ASU to get that done. Our government just needs to be committed to the quality of education that we give our children.
What kind of commitment are you talking about here?
Well, I'm talking putting policies in place that will allow the universities to do what they need to do.
But
so that
Prof, year in, year out, we've always seen policies from government geared towards making our education system better.
And as usual, implementation is our problem. Look at where we are now. We made a promise, 2009? And now somebody is saying it was a different government. Excuse me? I mean, what happened between the 2009 promise and now? Why are we still fighting over the same things? And because there are no consequences for anybody. The government can do whatever it wants to do. It has nothing to fear, because nobody is going to, kick them out. I am glad that the Senate is speaking up.
They want to legislate such that, ASU cannot embark on an indefinite strike?
Well...
Would that work?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think we have to get to the heart of the problem, not the physical, who's gonna blink first? I'm gonna shut you down, or I'm gonna incapacitate, the country. We have to get to the what is right? What are we? I mean, there are unions all over the world.
Yeah, but pardon me,
but the children don't suffer.
Something that the bone of contention here is the earned allowance of the lecturers.
Yes.
Because if they were to raise the earned allowance, they'll call off the strike. That's what some in government say.
Yes. And here is what's happening with the earned allowance. I'm a university lecturer. And the ASU acknowledges the fact that because part of that deal was a salary increase, and they immediately effected that. But these allowances, here's what goes on. I have 20 students that I'm supervising, especially at graduate level.
Yeah.
The allowance for each student is $25,000 to a maximum of 4. So what happens to the other 16? That I'm supervising?
No, I think there's a limit of those you can supervise in a year.
Oh, yes. Well, so what do you do with the students, the capacity? So I say the remaining 16 wait.
No, but does that mean that they're admitting beyond their capacity?
They're not admitting enough. Why are we setting the limit on how many of our students can graduate? Because that's essentially what it is. It's, if the lecturers say, I'm at number 4, and so I won't work on any other students until next year. My son is number 5, and so my son waits until next year. And he doesn't even know that he's going to get supervised. That's what it amounts to. So these lecturers are saying, we can't sit around watching these students languish, so let's go ahead, and supervise them.
Must we all go to universities?
I'm sorry?
Must we all be in a university or go attend a university?
Well, we don't all have to be.
Because someone here, Bimbola, is picking holes in what you said about the fees. He says, How would the poor attend universities when she said the amount paid is too small for the university to cope?
I'm sorry, the poor in this country, I don't understand that. I'm not quite sure about the definition of the poor, but the average Nigerian spends over 50,000 on what I would consider frivolous things. I should be, the whole bit. I've done the math based on how many people say, and and these, including my local hairdresser and my local manicurist. We're having a party. This is the Ashebi that we take. You take Ashebi 2,500. You sew it with 2,500. 5,000 per Ashebi, and you have 10 or more like that every year. And the poor cannot afford to pay let's give them scholarships. If they're smart enough and they want to go to university, let's raise funds from the private sector to fund poor kids who want to go to university. But let's set a realistic price for university education. And if you have a poor kid who is brilliant and academically strong, then let's support that kid.
You take, for instance, in the United States, it's almost free for elementary, high school. That gives the parent all the time to save towards your college life. Can we also do all of that back home?
Actually, the average American does not, well, they do save towards college life.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the poor kids that that person was talking about, those poor kids have to incur debts, of unthinkable magnitude. You graduate and you have $40,000, facing you as your student loan, because you couldn't afford to go to school unless you took out a student loan. So these parents who have the money and can save, they do save. But a lot of these kids, they have to work, 1 or 2 jobs. We think, our kids should just go to school 100% of the time. Other parts of the world, the kids work.
Yeah, we were talking about that yesterday, but do we have an environment? Because yesterday, Chamberlain and I, we were looking at some university students, specifically University of Jos, where some of the students took time out to do some other menial jobs. And we were thinking that you can now as well do this side by side with your learning.
Absolutely. I did. I didn't have a parent that paid my way through school. I worked my way through school, cleaning offices, cleaning houses, housekeeping, food service, and that was how, because I did not want the student loan. I did not want the situation where when I graduated, I was faced with this humongous debt. And so, even with my children, I was able to, help them because I did not want them to also be in that position. And so you have to do what you have to do. The government does not have to carry the burden, all of the burden. You can work and go to school at the same time. It's done all over the world.
One of the things that struck me, at the beginning was, even though you said you're on the side of the lecturers, you also said that, that the amounts of money we're looking at for infrastructure is actually humongous. So we have to actually sit at a negotiation table and see what is feasible. What we can actually do right now. It was Tim that was saying, no, you made a promise and you made a promise. You must keep that promise first before we begin to look at anything else.
I think time has overtaken all that. I believe that for half of that, if we go completely e-learning, we can get more students and they can get better quality education, because it's not going to be a Dubé class, which is already distance learning. When you have a lecturer standing here and you're standing in like mile 12 in the same hall, and you have to ask with the megaphone, and even with the megaphone, you have to ask him, what did he just say? But with e-learning, it's there. You can get it online. If you didn't understand when you didn't hear the professor the first time, you replay your video, you replay your audio. So I believe it's better quality, given what we have on ground now. And so for half of that, We can do electronic. Technology can cut down the cost of education for our children, and we'll get better quality education.
All right, Professor Abiola Awoshika is the rector of Olawanye Awoshika School of Innovative Studies. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you for having me.
We're back in just a moment. Don't go away.